We're back.
We accept the challenge of providing dangerous, thought-provoking, and sometimes controversial insights into life's most common topics.
I don't know why I packed the hollow points.
Did you just say hollow points?
Yeah. Probably should have brought a super soaker.
One of my favorite R&B groups of all time is New Edition. And one of the biggest hits, I think, is This the End? So I asked a question to people. I put it on Facebook. Like, why do y'all think most relationships end? And it came down to stuff like the lies. It was, of course, cheating. It was empty promises. It was one dude said she eat too much. One was he wasn't a provider. I find it hard to believe. One person said they'd rather be friends, and somebody said different goals. Like, it was all over the place. But I think 99% of relationships, with the second most reason relationships end, is probably communications. And that comes to conflict resolution skills. I guess the number one would probably be death. But conflict resolution skills is the reason why they end, which is also communication to me. So could you give us, and I'm going to go to you first, CP.
Okay. All right.
An example of good conflict resolution skills, something that you use, and some bad ones, maybe something you used to use, maybe one of each.
Yes, I'm going to come back to that, though, because I think for the sake of the audience and them listening to what you're saying, I need to make sure that we give some disclaimers. I disagree with you that death would be one of the reasons why relationships end, because you have more boyfriends and girlfriends than you do husbands and wives. And so therefore, if you do stay with your significant other, your husband or your wife till the end, that would end in death. But you had probably 5, 6 girlfriends in your lifetime where those ended because of what we're going to talk about today.
You're right. You're right. I think communication. Right, cool. I agree with you.
Communication.
You should have communicated that you was about to die anyway. So you're right.
Right. So in that regard, I know for a fact, without a shadow of a doubt, 1,000,000%, it's always communication. Even if it's infidelity as a symptom or financial whatever as a symptom, the actual cause, the root cause, is poor communication, because you're not able to be your authentic self, and you're still selling the representative that you presented with this person, or things have changed and you didn't communicate the changes that had occurred. And that's what ultimately led to the demise of the relationship, if you guys were in a relationship. The one thing that you said as far as conflict resolution is the only conflict that comes about is when that person is not accepting the change or not accepting the new you or the new way in which you like to do things, because they had in their mind things were going to get better or mature, or you were on the same growth path. And without that being established and documented, it was really up in the air the entire time. So you know, when I got with you, you was doing this job and you was living this life and you was driving this car. And then all of a sudden we got together, and a little bit later you got real ambitious on me. You know, that type of shit. Unless you introduce yourself as Kim the ambitious one, then I don't know that you have all these grand ambitions that I need to invest and support in from the jump. So a lot of the conflict is the surprise factor. When you surprised that this went wrong, or that these things changed, because once you get to the point where we boyfriend, we girlfriend, we're not just talking, we in a relationship, because white people call it dating, and we call it talking. But once you get to that's my guy, this my girl, now we're in a relationship. So much preliminary shit should have been established that's why people not doing the 4 seasons, like you say, or the 8 seasons that you've adopted recently. We got to do a little more deliberation up front instead of feeling like we all in love because we could spend a day together. And so that's where the bad communication comes in, is we get caught up in the moment or swept off our feet. And then we just doing stuff because it feels good at the time, and we're not forward thinking as far as us aligning our lives with this other person. That's my perspective. That's my point.
So I would say I agree with your surprise thing. So I think if you introduce it slowly and let the person know how you even got there, I think that's easier than to bring to somebody, oh, you all of a sudden want to be a police today.
Right.
I need to know how you got there
Right.
because you're a janitor.
Right.
So today you want to be a police. If you said you saved somebody's life or you start protecting them or something and then something sparked in your mind, I think your partner would accept it. But the communication wasn't there. Don't just say, hey, I signed up for the police academy today. So
I think that the situation is drastic changes. I'm a big believer in do not involve yourself with somebody in transition. So if they're going through a transition in their life, respect them enough, respect you enough, respect the situation, respect love enough to let them finish that. Let them go ahead and finish that meal, and then we'll come in and figure out where we belong together. But it's some people, and y'all all know these people, they got a case that can't help it. They just off. They just touched. They just, for whatever reason, they're never going to have a successful, long-standing, sustainable relationship because they do shit that doesn't make sense. They're their own worst enemy. They accept it. They know I'm a lot to deal with. You got to be able to handle me because this and that. And some people just crazy, man. It's some people that do shit that's so crazy, not even Terrence Trent D'Arby would co-sign that bullshit. You know what I'm saying?
So
So
first of all, you said that a few times, so I want to break that down a little bit.
okay.
Give us some examples of transition.
Transition is you know who you are innately. You know who your mama raised you to be. And you on that path to being the woman, the man that you was raised to be. But then there's a time where the path gets a little tougher. That's when you're going for your masters. It requires more time. You got a young child. You got a special needs child that you just now learning about how to operate in that lane. You're recently divorced. You're recently diagnosed with something. You know what I'm saying? Or I had one of my boys, he started talking to a chick that was 2 months pregnant. What are we doing, fam? Like she's in transition. She's changing into something, which is a mom. And it's a lot going on that you can't fight against, no matter how good a guy you are or great your intentions are. She doesn't deserve a chance at this point. She's swollen. And so, yeah, she about to hit this trimester and you trying to holler at her. That's transition is very simply when people are saying they are in a position in life where they need to focus on something big that is going to change the trajectory of their future. You can't then parasite your way or hitch a ride on that journey. You got to let them get there and see how they going to be as the new person before you just, that's the problem with, and I'm talking about women because I talk to women. What happens with women is, especially in my younger days, they would go through these transitional periods or they would come out of these transitional periods. I would start talking to them and they're still figuring out who the new them is. Don't fuck with a chick that's done lost some weight recently. Her confidence is out the roof. Like she sees the world differently because the world sees her differently, and she's unmanageable. Like it's or that came into a little money. Like she's unmanageable. She's unreasonable with some of her expectations. You get into the restaurant and she asking what ingredients they put in stuff. I can't do that. I can't be with someone who needs. And they agree. Do y'all put cinnamon in that? Like what the cinnamon? Like or somebody that needs to weigh all their meals with a real scale. You pulling a scale out your handbag. I can't do it. I can't. You need to learn how to eyeball this shit. Like you need to get into this good enough, long enough to where you can eyeball what the meals are, or you know what you get at this restaurant or at that restaurant. But you still in the experimental phase where you figuring it out. You got a notebook and everything. I don't want to be with her. So that's what I mean. Is that too hard, Shonda?
No, I agree with you on the transition. And I love the way that you use that word, how you use it before people should get into a relationship. Don't get into one with somebody that's in transition. But also I want you to think about there's a transition that happens when you get in a relationship. All of those, some of those things you name is transitioning. So your partner that got with a girl that was 2 months pregnant, What about the couples that's in a relationship and she becomes pregnant and she's transitioning into the mom, but he can't take it?
Mm-hmm.
It still falls back
And
with
it's his
communicating
child.
and knowing who you are. No, not that it's his child, because some guys I have known a few
Hmm.
that it's all good until she gets pregnant, and then they out the relationship, moving on to the next. I don't know if is it because she looks different, she gains weight, she ain't small like she used to be no more, but it's a turnoff. So I'm just saying, transition can go. You can use that before you get into a relationship, but I think when you're in a relationship, a lot of transitioning happens as well that people can't take, which probably will end the relationship because people do change.
I can tell you this. I can tell you. So they talk about the concept of season, reason, and lifetime when it comes to people being in your life. And so let's just think about that from a romantic perspective. You have. I'm gonna speak for me because I don't like to hate on others or speak out of turn on other folks. I've had women in my life for season, reason, and lifetime, and them seasonal hoes. I had to identify them early on because I had no desire for them to be lifetime hoes. I remember, and the story might have came out earlier. I don't know if I can recall if I told y'all this or not, team. But I was dating a woman, and my mom pulled me in the kitchen and said, "Do not procreate with this woman." And it was the reason why
I
that's
remember
such a
that.
big
Yeah.
deal is because my mama don't use words like procreate. We are not from that type of lifestyle. So it mattered to me when she said, "Do not be having kids with this woman." My mom considered her to be a seasonal woman. Now she ended up being a reasoned woman, and we was cool from a lifetime perspective as well. But the moral of the story is, I think when you say dude's sour on a chick is because he's in her mind labeled her as seasonal. She's really great for where I am in my life right now, really great for what I'm on. All of a sudden, she pregnant. This motherfucker has just became a lifetime commitment, whether we're together or not. I'm gonna have to fool with this broad because of this fucking baby. If I'm kind of the right guy, or if the courts make me, or whatever the case may be, I can't shake her now. I grew up in a situation where, and it's gonna sound crazy, especially at my age now and what's going on in my life, but I grew up in situations where dudes would tell dudes in high school, "You better have a baby by her. She cold." Like she was cute. That was it. She was cute, or she had a mom and a dad, and she was cute. That's the one you want to lock yourself into. Now, think we 17, 16 years old. We ain't really thinking straight. We thinking, too much with limited information. But the moral of the story is you need to game her down and lock her. Y'all all have heard the story of trapping or locking somebody in with the
Yeah.
baby. Like the baby locked them in. And people had those thought process. So when dudes flee the situation, it's because they just feel incarcerated with this relationship with this woman, whether it be romantic or not. I am locked in to this woman because we did it and she got pregnant, right? Because dudes don't get pregnant, right? We did it and she got pregnant. So that's why they feel
very
like, man, things have
immature,
changed
But
because
if
of this
we,
baby.
but when we
Y'all
go back
talking about
to,
immature ways of thinking. Go ahead, Sean.
if you go back to communication,
Mm-hmm.
should he have told her in the beginning, "I don't want no babies.
Doesn't
I don't
matter.
want any kids.
Doesn't
We
matter.
dating. I don't want no children right now."
Doesn't matter.
Or what if you tell them in the beginning, "I'm trying to lock you down and have a baby because you look so good"?
Man, once
You
again,
never say that, right?
you never say that. You never say that. And if you say you're not trying, this is what happens.
That
A
has been
relationship.
said. I know you saying you should never say it, but guys use that as a line.
A
Oh,
young
okay.
And have.
relationship.
Tell us more. Tell us
Yeah.
more.
Look, that's like the
Yes,
bathwater.
they
That's like
have.
drinking your bathwater. Those aren't real things.
Hey, I want you to
You
have my
so
baby.
fine.
I want
Like,
That's
y'all
right.
to hold us accountable. If a dude say he want to drink your bathwater, get him a cup and let him drink that.
The concept of I want to have your baby, I think that when we go back to the primal reason why we here and why we engage with each other is to proliferate the DNA, right? So when you find that person and you think they got this, that, and third, women want this. We put it on the TikTok where it was a dude, he's 6'9", muscular, giving the chick the keys to a Mercedes, and she all docile and small, and she feels taken care of and protected by this man because that's just instinctive. That's the natural way things are used to go. Let me just say it that way. They used to go that way. But the idea of the reason why I'm attracted to you is because these primal urges and these things that I feel like I would love to create something with you and see how that plays out. We could have a cute baby with nice hair and all this other stuff. I think that's just it's obviously an immature way to look at things, but it's the way that young people tend to look at things. And unfortunately, everybody doesn't mature after a certain age at the same rate. So you have a lot of women that's 26, 27, 34 that's really operating immaturely. They really calculating steps in their life that, and y'all know women like this, y'all know men like this. This would be okay if you was 19. You are 37 years old. Like some of the stuff you saying, some of the moves that you making is well underneath your actual age. Well underneath your actual age. So in that idea of getting with a chick and saying, you know, I think I could see something down the line with her. Now you have to start checking off boxes and you have to start doing more information gathering as to whether what you think is honest, what you think is realistic, or is it just fanciful? Is it just you? Because that's how when women talk about getting swept off their feet or falling head over heels and all this, that they're falling in love with the idea. They fall in love with the opportunity, with the possibility of how this could play out. They're not really doing real math. They're not really, he's a hard worker. Okay, cool. He's not 19. He got all the energy in the world to be a hard worker at the plant. That shit get old real quick at the plant. You know what I'm saying?
As men, we need to define the hard worker stuff. And we need to know, when was he a hard worker? Don't tell me he was a hard worker 5 years ago, because you have to evaluate him now. But women sometimes they'll
I think
evaluate.
one of the biggest things is I've heard this more than 3 times. So here we go. I've heard women say that a man was a good man, also say that same man didn't have a good relationship with his baby mamas or his previous children. And I don't think that can be the same man. I don't think you can be a good man and have a bad relationship with your children.
I don't think so either, because you're a complete person.
He was a good man to her. That's her.
How could she believe that? How could she believe that?
Have used. You could say he's a good boyfriend, but not a good father, but not a good family member, not a good.
I see it like this. Okay, so this is from my point of view. If I had a lady friend or whoever, and she was dating a guy and he didn't take care of his kids, he just was overall bad. But she got kids with him, or she don't. But she just say, well, he's a good man. No, he's a good man to you, and that's as far as she want him to be good. It's to her, because how can you be with a man and you have kids and he doesn't take care of his, but you say he a good man? So you must don't care about his kids either. You can't care about that or nothing else. You just care about what he does for you.
So we're talking about communication, right? And what you said, as being a man, you have different parts. You're a family member, you're a worker, member of society, you're a partner, husband, whatever, and then you are a mentor, father, whatever. If you're only good in 25% of those areas, you're not a good man.
You don't qualify.
She misspoke on that.
She did.
She is wrong. And Shonda, I want to ask you this: if was hanging up for love when Chris hung up on you, was that good or bad conflict resolution in your opinion?
Well, and to think about it now, it wasn't good for me. If you had to ask me, the me back then, because you didn't give me a chance. You basically, when you hung up, you said, I'm not having this. I'm not finna do this. Bye. And we didn't work nothing out. But somehow it worked for me, because I had to realize, okay, this is not what he gonna do. I don't need to. He don't even want to hear what I have to say unless my tone is totally different. It wasn't that he didn't want to talk, but all that yelling and cussing, nah, he wasn't gonna hear that. So I wouldn't call it what I'm trying to say. I wouldn't call it.
I could tell you why I could tell you why I would call it good.
What
I mean, Because if it works out in the short term versus if it works out in the long term. If it's gonna work out in the long term, you might not like it today, but when he sat you in timeout, it worked out in the long run.
I think differently. I think differently on this because I think that we can't get caught up in the results justifying the actions. I mean, some things work out. Like I said, you can kick a basketball in. That don't make that a good shot. It just happened to go in. And I think that in that situation, in season 1 finale, where you talked about being hung up on for love, I think what it was he had given, it wasn't a shock to you. It probably surprised you that he actually did
I
it,
thought it was
but
a
he
shock.
had
Was it a shock?
let me explain. Let me explain the difference
shocked.
because I just want to give you the nuance of shock and surprise. Okay, shock is you could have never ever anticipated or expected this to be an outcome. Surprise is you didn't think it would happen, but when it happened, you were like, "Oh my god, I can't. I'm stunned that it actually went this way." Let me explain why. Based on that episode, he had given you not only a fair warning that he wasn't like that, but his actions had given you a good understanding that he wasn't like that and wasn't about that. And so, therefore, when he stood on business, like they say now, or when he stood by what he had been providing you, it was like, oh, this nigga serious about this. So it wasn't a shock because it wasn't like it came out of nowhere. He had developed a personality trait and characteristics and a way in which he spoke to you and y'all had spoke to each other. And that had worked for X number of months, weeks, or whatever the case may be. When you went rogue and went back to old Shonda and old crazy Shonda, he was like, oh, I had told you now. I had given you fair warning, is fair armed. And so it couldn't have been a shock because that's what saved you, honestly, was that you reflected on, you know what? Oh my, wow. I can't believe he stuck by his principles in this regard. I can't believe a lot of people say a lot of shit. He's not a talk about it. He'll be about it kind of guy. And so that's a line of respect that you extended to him because it didn't come out of nowhere. He had given you some fair warning or some indications that this is not how it was going to go. If it had been a situation where it came, for example, if he showed up tomorrow in a dress, that's a shock. That's a shock because that thing has never given you any indication he was putting on a dress and doing some J. Edgar Hoover. That's a shock. So surprise is a difference. I think in that instance, if you just go by the psychological definition of things, she was very surprised and caught off guard, but she wasn't shocked because he had given her some brace yourself. This is a possibility if you get to acting left. And that's my definition of it and how I see it playing out. But I also think that once again, I think from a communication perspective, y'all have one of the greatest communicating relationships that I've ever been exposed to because y'all vulnerable and y'all are able to get on each other's nerves, bring it to the square, and then get over it and move on. And everybody doesn't have that situation because they're not thinking big picture. It's times where you wanted to leave him or he wanted to leave you, but you was thinking, what the fuck else I'm gonna do? You know what I'm saying? Like, what, if I pull this trigger, what is next for me? At this point, I done kind of let myself go a little bit for this nigga. It's a lot I gotta do if I still want to be happy, or I could just get over this shit and move on. Like that's the difference when you have conflict resolution. Is really okay. What is the conflict? What is the remedy to this conflict? And what am I investing? If I decided to stand on this, if I decided that I'm not going to allow for this. Now, when we talk about abuse, physical or verbal or things of that nature, that's different because certain people can take different things. Great example, infidelity. There are millions of relationships that have survived infidelity for whatever reason. And then you have some people that say, I don't care how drunk he was, who spiked his drink, what the situation. When Kevin Hart had got caught up with them pictures where he was messing around or whatever, and it was on video, somebody had outed him or something like that. And it came to his wife that he currently has, his newest wife or his latest wife, whatever she is. And she made a decision. I'm riding out. It wasn't Hillary Clinton. We could just name a lot of women that was like, you know what? It ain't worth the kingdom. It was stupid. It was disrespectful. It was this, it was that, but it ain't worth it. And then you have some women was like, no, I'm one and done, like the NCAA tournament. So from a conflict perspective, not all conflicts are created equal, and not all resolutions are created equal. Is what I'm getting at.
So
Yeah,
do you
I
think?
think it comes from. I'm
I
sorry.
was going.
I was gonna say real quick. I think it comes from like some women know if they were neglecting the dude,
Mm-hmm.
and some women weigh the scale. Like, am I willing to lose his millions? And I guess a lot of factors in there that come through it. Go ahead,
Right.
Shonda. Sorry.
I was going to add to what you were saying. Do you think that the ones that stayed, the Hillarys, you got well, Cardi B she pregnant again, but she still says she getting a divorce. But what I'm saying is, do you think that they actually sat down, and not just a woman alone saying, "I'm gonna ride it, I'll make it work," because a conversation had to be had. They had to talk about it and come to an agreement that we're gonna we're gonna stick together in this. With Kevin Hart's situation, I'm pretty sure they sat down and talked. It wasn't just her talking. I'm pretty sure he had to talk. He had to say something what he wasn't gonna do anymore, and they came to an agreement to say, okay, we gonna make this work. So for the couples that the one and done, is it because that person that got cheated on said, I don't even want to hear what you got to say. It wasn't no communication there. I'm just done. Ain't no talking it out. Ain't no working it out. Ain't no weighing the scales to see, that person just said, I want to hear it. Do you
I
think
think
if
it's.
that person would have sat down and talked it out, you probably could have stayed?
I think
Could have
with
made it work?
people like you have teams. So she sat down with her team, and even if you're in the ghetto, you sit down with your team. If that could be your mom and your sister or whatever, and he sat down with his team, his boys or whatever, and they probably talked it out and weighed the pros and cons. But
But is that something you should do? Because I'm gonna put myself out there. If
Mm-hmm.
if me and my husband, if it was a situation where either one of us cheated or whatever, I don't think my team would. I don't have a team, but if I had a team, that wouldn't be who I go and talk to.
we could
That's
be your team. But I would say
Don't talk to me about that shit. Leave me
because
out
I
of it.
think
if
first,
you
I
I'm
think
asking
first you
questions.
should.
I'm gonna say, have you been neglecting this guy physically for 3 months? And like, let's say you told me you've been neglecting him for 3 months for no reason. You just didn't feel like it. You wanted to take up knitting. You wanted to play pickleball instead of going on dates, and the dude
But
cheated
if
on
you my
you.
Doing you.
team, you already know, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you my
I don't know
team,
everything. I don't know
but
everything, all the
so
ins
why
and
would
outs.
I
You
come
gotta
to you?
Right.
because I'm
It
gonna ask the clarifying questions.
uh,
But
and
if
then what if you my team and you never liked him to begin with?
Yeah. Yeah. You can't just activate a team real time. You got to build a team.
no, they got to be on your team for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
People can
those are
be on your
people
team and not like who you with for a minute.
because they cannot like him for a while, but they gotta like that you're happy
Yeah. They
in
got
your
to have
decision.
justifications. I agree with that.
But
Mm.
I
if
agree.
if
Or else they just don't respect you and your decision making.
but if you believe that you were happy in the relationship and he made you believe you were happy in the relationship and he still cheated, then I'm going to say leave him.
I
So
just
it's different.
I would rather talk to someone about the way that I feel, but not talk to someone and bring my whole relationship in as a whole. Like I can't go to the team and bring him in and what he was doing, and also telling you what I wasn't doing or whatever. I just feel like it wouldn't be a fair judging.
But you should never try to secure advisement with half-assed information. You should
Right.
never
Yeah.
expect or respect an opinion
You
that
gotta be
doesn't have the
vulnerable.
totality of the information on there. I do have a more poignant question to you. Somebody that was cheated on and fought through it and stuck by her man. And I know we used Cardi B as an example. Who was and Hillary Clinton as an example? But it was another example I thought I used earlier. I can't think of it now. Who was it?
Kevin Hart, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Hart's wife.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this: as our resident member of the Society of Vaginas, do you and the Society of Vaginas respect Kevin Hart's wife more than Nia Long, or you respect Nia Long more than Kevin Hart's wife as a woman? Or does it even matter? Because as a man, I don't think y'all care at this point, the woman that Kevin Hart's wife is versus the woman that Nia Long is. But I think that at the time when she gave up on Ime, it was a lot of women that was like, yeah, don't let him disrespect you, queen, and he want to go out here and this and that or whatever. But they wasn't saying the opposite about Kevin Hart's wife or about Offset or whatever. So in the Society of Vaginas, how do y'all equate these things?
I can't speak for all, and speaking for myself, I'm not gonna say I really don't care. I don't want to sound harsh, but whatever makes that person happy, it doesn't. If Kevin Hart wife, if she decide to stick with her husband, they worked it out, then good for them. I mean, that's their business. I don't know what he does to make her happy or not make her happy. I would never know that. They're not gonna let everybody in their business. He just got caught with somebody else. If she decided to stay, she stayed. Now with Nia Long and her dude, what he did in the public, pretty much the same as Kevin Hart. And she decided to leave. I know they had been together for a while, but that's her business. I'm happy for her. She decided, you're not gonna do this to me. I can do better, and she left. That's her business. If I could speak for most of the women, what I think the women that flip-flop so much are the ones that's just really not stable in their own. And they're probably a flip-flop. I think that they will be the ones that'll be in a relationship with somebody and cheated 5 or 6 times and still be telling somebody, if I was you, I wouldn't stay. And they just stayed about 5 or 6 times. So I don't know. I'm not that type of woman. I just, whatever makes you happy. If she decide to stay with him, then that's her business. If she leaves 10 years from now because he cheated again, then then leave. You had enough. But if she stayed for the second time, that's her business. She happy.
I think from a conflict, so we talked about communication, and I also believe that some things should never make it to you, right? So like you said, like Oprah said, that should never made it to me. There's this, and I can tell you this from experience. I was asked at one point in time, what do you think your wife would say if you asked for an open marriage? And my response immediately was, what would be the point of the marriage? Because, excuse me, I can be open single. And I think that when you commit to the marriage, you kind of saying, I've done enough of that wild oats and all this other stuff. And so now I'm willing to just, regardless of how fabulous or how exciting and hanging from the rafters this is, I'm going to ride it out with this person and go through the waves, with this individual, whether it be the Lazy River or the Grand Rapids. This is my partner. And I'm going to ride this out with that person. This concept now, the thruples and the quintuples and the all this other shit, I don't understand why I have an exhaustive arrogance and depression for anybody that wants it all. I feel like choosing lanes and picking sides is part of the human condition. It's okay not to want it all. I think we all have some inclinations to want to blow money and save money and have it. We want our cake and eat it too. That's kind of natural. But what makes us great as a species is the ability to control our urges. It's to not kill a motherfucker from road rage and not, like, everybody has these feelings. My daughter, and I'll say this and then I'll let you guys go in this regard. My daughter a couple weeks ago said, we had to do something the next day. And so she battles with anxiety from time to time. And so I just don't understand it. And it is what it is, right? Just go to a therapist and we'll figure this out later. But the moral of the story is, she said, how did you sleep? And I said, I didn't sleep that well because I knew we had something important to do. So oftentimes when I have something the next day going on, my brain can't really shut off and I don't get really good sleep. And she says, so you too suffer from anxiety. And my response to her is, I have all the characters from Inside Out in my head. So yes, I do have everybody being represented. I don't let it consume me or overwhelm me.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody gets a chance behind the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Anger and frustration and bashfulness, all of that exists inside me. I have to create that balance to where joy is not always there. I'm not skipping and snapping my fingers and smiling at people in their faces. There has to be a balance that's created and harmony that is performed inside of you in order to move good in this world psychologically. But I think that unfortunately, people want it all on display at all times as they see fit, and we supposed to be okay with that. I get frustrated sometimes and just lash out. Not at me, you don't. Not more than twice. The first time, then this is what I try to explain to my wife. The first time it happens, you didn't know. I got to let you have that one. The second time it happens, I deal with it, and that's what makes the third time never exist, right? That's why I say twice. Some people say, you get one time to do me like that. No, you get twice. The first time you get it, and then I have to check you and let you know this ain't how that's going to go down, Playboy. The second time is some might nots going upside your head. And then I don't even put you in a position to do me like that again. So you are always going to get 2 times with me. But I think that in this idea of, I want my girl got a girlfriend and all this other stuff, that's insatiable. That's too much. When do you get to a point where enough is enough? And this is what's enough for me. Not that you have to explain it to society, but at a point where I'm good. Nothing's perfect. And I just need it to be good enough for me. And so when you start having wandering eyes and you need to drink excessive, when everything is in excess, your life is not balanced and you are in a transition, I hope, to try to find some stability. But in that time, you need an anchor. And that's what a husband or a wife is prescribed to do, is to be the anchor when you're in that transition and when you're moving. Now, if you got somebody that has a low constitution and they like, listen, I didn't sign up for this. This is exactly what you signed up for if I'm trying to get better. But if I'm like, look, a man got to be a man, and you just got to understand your girlfriends, all of their husbands is doing the same thing. When you start pulling the Kobe Shaq situation, remember when Kobe told on Shaq, say he was paying off all these hoes?
Mm-hmm.
And you start doing that,
yeah,
that's man, that's bad. That's a horrible thing. And so I think comparing, like you said, what's good for them is good for them as they see fit. It's just like the gays. Like, I don't have no problem with the gays. Oh, don't try to convert me. Don't try to make me have to. I don't want to see. I don't need all that. Me and my wife don't tongue kiss each other in public. We don't need to prove what we got going on to anybody but us. But for some reason, certain subsets of society feel like they have to put their relationship at the forefront and force it down everybody's throat. And you're supposed to just accept it and embrace it and support it. No, why don't you just do y'all and love it? Why don't y'all buy y'all house and have fur babies and all that other kind of shit? That's cool. Just do that without needing me to sign off on it. And that, I think that's where a lot of the issues come in society, is that everybody's doing things for the approval and the acceptance and the co-signing of other people, as opposed to just being able to fulfill your own stuff on your own. You shouldn't need it to be a community thing.
It all started with the thumbs up on Facebook.
Yeah, we saying the same thing.
Get some thumbs up. I mean, checking it every day, and you got 2,000 friends, and you probably only know about 50 of them. You know, the rest of them you don't know. You just accepting, and you post a picture, and you only get 5 thumbs up, and you about to panic.
Right.
I gotta go look in this mirror and readjust myself and see why I don't have 100+ likes. Why everybody ain't liking my picture, and that's what it's about. It's all about what everybody else see. Not, the fruit is shiny and pretty, but it's rotten on the inside. Nobody sees the inside. Everybody just see what's on the outside, and that's what matters.
Yeah, and
I think that you said something though, bro. When you asked the question, I think the one thing that came into my mind is, I think that there's a direct correlation that people have between the term resolution and the term positive. Okay, because I do believe that divorcing a bad person is a resolution.
It is.
I think that's a resolution to conflict. Unfortunately, we've been programmed to believe that the only time a conflict is resolved is with a positive outcome for both people. which is why I don't do compromise.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a situation where no, sometimes me saying enough is enough and moving on, because a lot of times people get too caught up in the sunk cost. One of the episodes that we had previously was, I'm with this man, we got 2 kids, and I'm just gonna go through it and work it out for the sake of the bigger picture with these 2 kids. And then eventually you like, listen, the juice ain't worth the squeeze, but you resolved it. As far as I'm concerned, as far as you concerned, I'm sure now looking back, as far as your kids are concerned, but at the time, it may have seemed like you was running from it, or you was, not facing it head on or whatever. But it's nothing wrong with removing yourself. Like I said, you get that first time, that second time, and then you're never going to get a chance to do me like that again. You're never going to get a chance. You're not even going to be in my atmosphere for you to make me feel this way. I have to be the master of my own destiny, and I have to stick up for myself and make sure I don't put people who don't have my best interest. And to me, that's conflict resolution. So not talking about it, being silent, going away from, removing it, cutting out the cancer is resolution to me. Not trying to fight the cancer and convert the cancer. Like, you're not going to make a cancer be a human growth hormone.
I agree. Yeah. I think divorce can be positive. 2 people being together in a toxic relationship, divorce ends up being positive. So I'm gonna agree with you on that. And then,
but I think that people feel like, though, the impression of failure, or that what happened. Y'all seem so. Once again, when you start trying to package this up for public consumption, and you feel like you owe whomever an opportunity, if you say, "Hey, me and my husband decided to get divorced. Are you good? Yes. Is he good? Yes." There's nothing else that you'll ever hear. What happened? What? Because that's nosy niggas. That's motherfuckers that really never was with y'all in the first place. They want to be able to be the first to spread it on whatever channel. She was paying all the bills, and it just got too old. You know what I'm saying? She got tired of being the primary breadwinner, or he got tired of her body hair. They want something that they can hang their hat on to say, this is why y'all thought they was great, and they never really was. And if this don't work out with me and my old lady, they'll never know. And I know her enough to know she doesn't feel required to tell anybody. It's no precautionary tale or whatever the case may be. It didn't work out. Period. There is no bad guy. There is no good guy. The shit was tough. It didn't work out. And we have to collectively move on, not just for the sake of our kid, but for the sake of each other.
And that's what I was trying to say about people going to a team. I don't think most people will go to a team when they know it's about to be, if this is it. I don't think they'll go and seek advice from their friends or whatever about what they need to do. I don't think they put people in their business like that when it's the end, because it can get too sticky. Like you said, people knows it. They just want something to talk about. And then, especially if it's in a serious relationship as a marriage, I don't think people will go to somebody and say, sure, I just found out he was cheating. Whether their team or friends or cousins or sisters, I just found out he was cheating on me. And then, and another reason why, because I'm skipping all over the place, I just thought about something. The reason why most don't do that is because 9 times out of 10, when you're married, and like the Kevin Hart situation and stuff, like some people, if they sit down and communicate why they're on this road, they end up finding themselves their way back to each other, and they stay. But now you done went to this team and you done told all your business. Well, he done did, she did it with, and all of this. Now they looking at you crazy because you stayed.
Because you didn't go in a genuine fashion, like he was saying. You went with this false thing, like he did everything wrong, and I'm the princess who did everything right. But Shonda, I got to ask you a question. So it sounds like we saying people need to talk to resolve conflict. Can you resolve conflict via text?
No.
This concludes another episode of the Hollow Points Podcast, where we act as your therapeutic outlet on topics many think about but are afraid to speak on.
Oh, you're welcome.